Hey, welcome back to the M Word. So, this is the show where I talk about all things mushrooms and fungi, talking to amazing brand builders, entrepreneurs, psychonauts, researchers, and everything in between. Today, I'm super excited to have my friend Doug Finkelstein here. Doug is a really cool character and has started an amazing psychedelic awareness community over in LA. And it's helping people to better understand psychedelic use, especially looking at compounds such as psilocybin from mushrooms, and really opening up people's thoughts and experiences and knowledge around the subject to make it not a scary space, to make it somewhere that can be safe and to make it somewhere that can be healing. And I'm just fascinated about everything that he's doing. So, hey, Doug.
Hi, Zoe. Thanks for having me. Big supporter of Function, the M Word, all that you do.
Yeah, thank you. And it's really cool to talk to you because ever since we had a conversation probably about 6 months ago now, and you were telling me about this community that you were setting up, I was so excited for lots of different reasons, which we will discuss. But for those that don't know you or Empathic Health, let's give us a little bit of background on who you are, where you're from, and what has led you to create this amazing community.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with my personal background because it plays into the start of Empathic Health. So I grew up in the suburbs of New York City, out kind of in farmland in the middle of suburbia. When I was 13, I started taking Propecia. It's this chronic hair loss medication. My grandfather's bald, my dad's bald. Everyone's bald in my family. I thought, free hair, sign me up. I just have to take this pill. No questions asked. I'm good to go. Did not work that way. The mental health side effects were quite brutal for the 10 years I was on it. And I think I always kind of knew that this drug was causing these mental health side effects, but I just wasn't willing to risk, I stopped taking it. My hair falls out. I wasn't ready for that as, a teenager and young adult. I was working in finance in Manhattan and I was 23, and I just kind of on a whim looked up a online community of other people that were on this drug. And I saw some absolute horror stories of their personal experiences with it. Some of the side effects I resonated with and spotted immediately and knew that those are things I had. Some I'm thankful that I didn't, but these weren't things I wanted to risk, staying on it one more day and messing with that. So I quit taking it after finding that community and got into meditation a few months later. And that really changed the whole script of my life, where I became more outgoing and energetic and wanting to try, all the new things that life and this world have to offer. One of those things was eventually psychedelics, and specifically psilocybin containing mushrooms, about a year and a half later when I was 25. And I more or less had the impression that I think most people have now, which is what the government and media will lead you to believe, that, these compounds are for hippies at festivals and they're going to make you jump out of a third-story building if you even think about taking them. And a lot of bullshit narrative around that. But I did the research I could, and it's kind of tough to find, trustworthy information on the internet to feel comfortable that what you're getting into with something that, is rewiring your brain. These are serious compounds and medicines we're talking about. But I was able to find enough information where I could to feel comfortable that if I took precaution for setting and prepared as best I could, that I would most likely ensure a good experience for me. So I went out into nature. I had a cabin in the woods with a lake and some fall foliage up in kind of the mountains of New York, and had a wonderful first experience. And the main thing I remember is I don't love spiders, as I think most people are probably right. But I was lying on the ground outside and I saw one on my arm, and we just kind of looked at each other and understood that, it was okay. The spider was free to crawl my arm, and we were both safe, and I could just kind of feel that understanding. So that was a part that I really enjoyed of the experience, but the whole thing was incredible. And I could tell that these medicines were going to be important in my life going forward, but wasn't really sure how. I no longer wanted to work in finance after that experience, which I find shocking. But I didn't really know what I did want to do. So I decided to apply for graduate school as kind of a reset to kind of find a new career path. I went out to Los Angeles on the West Coast in California, just kind of on a whim to visit UCLA out there and see, what that kind of atmosphere was like, and just fell in love with Southern California and the outdoors and really just everything in that area. So I moved out there for graduate school. Actually graduated about 3 weeks ago at this point from my MBA program.
Nice.
And I still wasn't sure while I was there what I wanted to do. And, most people are going into consulting or banking or big tech. None of those really appealed to me personally too much, but every 3 or 4 months since that first experience, which I'm 28 now, so that was about 3 years ago, I'll go out into whatever nature I'm around with a small group of 4 or 5 people and have a similar experience to that first one. And what I realized I love doing over the course of about 7 or 8 of these is bringing people with me that have either never experienced psychedelics, or maybe they did in college, but they kind of had a college experience with these that, isn't very intentional and probably wasn't thoroughly thought out and may have even been a negative experience in their eyes, and kind of seeing them give it a second chance or a first chance, and not just being there for the day of the journey for them, but seeing how they integrate it into their day-to-day life after, and how it helps them approach problems differently, or repair fractures in their relationships, or get very motivated to focus on a career path or a new career path, whatever it might be. I'm just fascinated and find great passion in seeing people find what that thing is for them, or things, and really, get after it after their first experience. So in August of 2020, I was having a experience of my own in Joshua Tree. And as I was coming down, I thought, okay, I'm relatively young, I'm a student. If there was ever a time to do something that is probably stupid and probably going to fail, it's now, where I can still, probably recover. So like, what do I really want to do? And I thought about it, and I realized what I really want to do is introduce this medicine to people. But why can't I do it for more than 4 or 5 people every 3 months, and do it for as many people as I can? So, just from my own experience, I remember how hard it was trying to find that information on the internet to get reliable, what is set and setting? What's the difference between LSD and mushrooms? Should I go on my own or with a group or to a therapist? Should I bring a facilitator? It's difficult to get really trustworthy, experiential advice and knowledge on this. So I thought if I could make a community that is really like based and built on trust and respect for each other, and just a willingness to share insights and information and resources and research and knowledge, and help each other grow on our own, unique paths to self-discovery, then that would be something very valuable for people that, don't have that one friend that knows about this, or like know that one website where they can maybe get some potentially good information. So to really kind of pool all these resources together and make a supportive community ecosystem for people. So that's where the idea for Empathic Health came. And what that looks like right now is a referral-only Slack community. So members can invite other members in, and that's kind of our way to make sure that we know everyone that's in there, and we can kind of vouch for the validity of the content that's being provided in there. So we have the Slack group for that. We have weekly events, and that's everything from a Monday morning meditation, intention setting and accountability, to a Wednesday integration circle, to Friday we have The Porch, which is a philosophy happy hour where we talk about everything from aliens to music to movies, whatever is piquing our curiosity as we wind down the week. And then on Saturdays, we actually close the community. So a little bit of encouragement as much as we can to kind of get off your phone or your computer and go outdoors and, have some time away from the screens. And we're working towards some in-person things. We have our annual retreat at the end of September in Joshua Tree that all members are invited to attend. We're working on coordinating some fun activities for that. And yeah, I guess that's a good place to stop because I've been talking for a little while.
That's amazing. I was writing notes because there's so many things that I want to pick up on that. Firstly, what an amazing journey. I think it's probably good that we add in a little disclaimer at this point that, we are talking about substances that are illegal in the eyes of the law. They are deemed as too dangerous to be approved by the FDA or the health authorities. So we're not encouraging people to do this, but let's be honest, people do these drugs. They do have these experiences. And I think the more information that is available for people to make informed decisions, the better. What is horrifying is you were prescribed a drug from your doctor that sounds like, potentially could have led to self-harm, severe depression, God knows what other side effects. And we hear similar stories with acne control pills. We hear similar stories with antidepressants, with SSRIs. Everyday children and young adults are being prescribed really powerful drugs that are actually changing their brain chemistry with, no positive benefits. And that to me is an extremely scary proposition. And then when you put next to it a natural plant that's been growing on the earth and that's been used by people, and mushrooms are non-toxic. The only way you could die from a psilocybin mushroom is if you choked on it whilst you were swallowing it, which people choke on all different types of food. There is no perceived toxicity to the compounds that are in it, and yet that's deemed illegal. So we're dealing with a very fractured, crazy pharmaceutical medical system. I think everyone who listens to this probably knows that already.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do just want to chime in that I find it interesting that there is a non-for-profit organization set up to raise awareness about that. Propecia is the name of it, about that drug that I was on. To the point, that's how many people have noticed these terrible side effects that they started a awareness organization. Yet it's still commonly prescribed, and now you can get it. There's a few different companies you can get it online. Like you don't even need to go in and see a doctor. They'll just send it your way with very little.
Wild. And the manufacturers of this product will know these side effects, and yet they're playing on, you're a good looking guy, Doug, hair, no hair, it's all good, but they're playing on especially young people's vulnerability. We all care about our appearance, and especially when you're a teenager and a young adult, it's even worse. And they're playing on that vanity and that insecurity that people are having, and yet they know that this drug could cause really serious harm, depression, suicidal effects. I mean, horrible, and yet they're still selling it. So yeah, it's a crazy world. And thank God that you had the forethought or the ability or the resources available to research it, and to find that out for yourself, because you might have just thought, I'm a depressed person, or obviously just turning into an adult that has, mental health problems, and that's just me, and wouldn't have joined the dots.
I did think that for a while.
Right? We trust our doctors and our physicians, so surely they wouldn't give us something that was bad for us or that could give us some harmful side effects. So many people have this such cognitive dissonance around the fact that actually our governments and our pharmaceutical companies are constantly giving stuff that are bad for us and harmful for us. Look at the opioid addiction crisis that we have in America and in Europe. It's creeping in now as well, dependency on painkillers. And, they full well know the side effects of these products, and yet they're still pushing them out to the world, which is, for me, a far more scarier vision of what our society has turned into than a couple of hippies taking mushrooms in a field.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's just like you said, there's the manufacturer surely knows about the harmful side of this drug. And I'm sure it has helped people too. I've seen people that have said, like, it's crazy to hear about these side effects. I haven't had any, and it's only been great for me. So there is the other side of it, but the same thing goes with mushrooms and LSD and these other psychedelics, that So yes, there's going to be situations where there are negative experiences. Although even with that, I think a lot of people that have had negative psychedelic experiences will say it was one of the best of their life because it changed them in profound ways.
Right.
So I often equate it to driving a car. Like, thousands and thousands of people die in car accidents every single day, but we allow that to be legal because it's to the benefit of society to have us driving cars and not horses. In the same way, like, there might be some negative situations that occur if psychedelics were made available to people as medicine, but overwhelmingly it would be beneficial to society if that was something we allowed people to do, especially to grow it in their own homes. Like, you can't grow your own medicine. That's a plan.
I mean, we're slowly, especially in the US, you're winning the battles around being able to grow cannabis and, being able to go into licensed venues and buy cannabis for your own medical use, so we're slowly getting there. So I feel like we're on this pedestal, we're on this kind of travelator heading towards this positive place. I mean, looking back to when the whole kind of psychedelic renaissance began, so let's go way back to Albert Hoffman and Timothy Leary and these guys who were creating this opening of the world around psychedelics, starting to realize the beneficial therapeutic qualities of it. It all went a little bit crazy. It was very unfortunate timing with Nixon, the war on drugs, realizing if people were open and, empathetic to a spider, they're not going to want to go to Vietnam and kill people, and they're not going to want to, do all the other things that the society was kind of forcing them into. And it was a shame because so much really valuable research was being done. I mean, I have this book, which I bought years ago when I first kind of embarked on psychedelic experiences, The Psychedelic Experience, written by Timothy Leary and latterly Ram Dass. And, they took it kind of from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it was all around the experience, and setting is key, and it's not like you said, the bad trips or bad experiences, it's not very rare to have an allergic reaction. Of course, you can have an allergic reaction to any food product, but it's more based around you're either drunk at a party around weird people, you're in a bad place, you don't feel safe, and then obviously you are a mirror of this experiences, and what's inside is going to reflect outside, and you're going to see that, and it could be horrifying and a really horrible experience. But I think if people understand that, okay, it is about, I was like, teenager taking mushrooms and taking acid, at a party. I don't know anything about set or setting. I had no idea about this. I had no idea that they could be used therapeutically. No idea that actually these are really powerful plant medicines. And, I have a huge, huge respect for plant medicines in all different cultures. In the UK and in Europe, we have mushrooms. That's our sacred plants. You have ayahuasca in the jungles of South America. You have peyote in Central America. Lots of different cultures have always worked with plants for the greater good of their societies and their communities. But somewhere along the way, with the war on drugs and this whole kind of wanting to really restrict what people could do and how people would think, these drugs suddenly became public enemy number one, and for me, I don't like to call them drugs. I like to call them plant medicine because, that's what they are. And even, LSD is a manufactured psychedelic, but it comes from a fungus, it comes from the ergot fungus, and, and that is essentially the compounds of a plant medicine. So, for me, understanding and helping people to learn about setting is key, and learning to respect these wonderful organisms and compounds as a tool to help them, like you said, to help fractured relationships, to help them clarify things in their brain, to help things like depression, I think is so key. When you were researching to create the community, what kind of information were you finding online? Were there Reddit streams? Were there blogs? How were people talking about psychedelics online?
Yeah, I think honestly, Facebook groups is probably one of the biggest places that these conversations were happening. A problem with that we saw was you'll get a lot of people. So I think Timothy Leary is a perfect example. People that start to understand the power of psychedelics want to share it with everyone. That's a pretty common thread with people that take them. But there's a way to do it that I would think is appropriate and a way that isn't. So, if someone comes into a Facebook group and says that has 2,000 people in it, like you just joined, you're looking for an answer to your question, you don't know anyone in the group, and you say, hey, I'm thinking about doing my first mushroom journey this weekend. Like, how much should I do? You're going to get that one asshole that's like, you should do 5 grams in the dark, like with headphones on, this playlist, eye shades. Like, that's the only way to do it. And if you don't do it that way, you're not doing it right, which is like so unhelpful to think that what works for you is like the only way it works for other people is so ridiculous. So there were things like that are common threads that we see in like some of these more public spaces to talk about it, where there's not really a check on, there's no one kicking people out of these Facebook groups for comments like that. So it once you lose the trust, and trust is so important in psychedelics, once you lose that, it's kind of hard to like feel comfortable you're getting the information you need to feel confident in yourself that this is what you're doing is the right path, or what you're researching is the right things to be researching. Aggression was another thing we saw a lot in some of these groups, where if the same question gets asked a couple times, people get annoyed that, that they're not searching the whole rest of the group to find these things. And just a lot of like unhelpful people that were in there that were hoping.
Surprising, considering everyone's supposed to be empathetic and caring about each other. It's like, that's not the vibe that we're going for.
Yeah, you need to work in the systems that exist. So like a lot of people, and people very close to me, fall into this category. Like we talked about, you trust to a T what a doctor tells you, what a medical professional with letters at the end of their name tells you, to the point that you're not even going to consider the use of psychedelics until it's prescribed by a doctor that says like, these are FDA approved. I have whatever myself, like I feel comfortable giving these to you. Until a person in a white coat is giving them to you, you're not going to feel comfortable with it, which is totally fine. Like whatever's comfortable for you is like, no one can change that for you. I think in the meantime, until that happens, like it's worth, being curious, asking questions, finding out what works for other people, finding out, the effect these things have on the brain from a chemistry standpoint, just to kind of prepare yourself a little bit. But I think that a rising tide lifts all boats in this situation, where my hope is for the people that do, need a Western medical model of their first foray into this space, that it eventually leads to more of a internal reflection of like, how do I want to be doing this now? Do I want to go to a retreat in Costa Rica or Peru? Do I want to go to Amsterdam? Do I want to do it in my home with a therapist that I know? Do I want to do it with friends, with a facilitator out in the woods? And maybe all those things eventually. There's so many ways to do it. So I know this is completely different than the question you asked, but
no, this is great. And that kind of leads me on to the whole one size fits all model, which modern pharmaceuticals employ. Like you were talking about this drug that you were on, it had very bad side effects for a lot of people, but some people were like, hey, it's great, and it's doing what it says on the tin. But we know that everybody is different, and everybody is different. Humans are a very complex makeup of cells and emotions, and every cell in your body is completely different to mine at different times of the day, at different times of your life. And being able to say, do something this way, take this pill 3 times a day, or have this experience, take this dose, do XYZ state, it's very hard. That's not how nature works. We survived and thrived and evolved as humans for millennia before the FDA arrived, and the health organizations and medical associations, and there are a lot of times that we died of things like simple infections. But let's be honest, herbal medicine, understanding how we relate to plants, understanding how we fit into this whole bigger picture, kind of kept humans in pretty good stead over years. And this whole sharing of information, it's like we've kind of gone to the extreme. We were communities, we were small tribes, and you had a medicine person or a shaman who was, your leader spiritually and would help you and heal you. And, there were small groups of 100 people here or there, maybe up to 1,000 people. But I feel like once you get into this, thousands of people in a group, thousands of people churning in their information, and you go on the internet and there's such a wealth of information, there's no way that you can get a good picture, because there's every single opinion is going to be put out there. For everyone that says this is great, someone will say this is horrible. For everyone that says do this, someone else says do that. And it gets very confusing, and people just end up being like frozen in the headlights and not really know what to do. And that can make everything very overwhelming. And I think what I like about what you're doing is you're curating a small trusted group of people who will hopefully become friends and who start to have trust within that space and take their advice. Now, what I'd like to see is hundreds of these small groups. And, the Empathic Health group might be on a certain vein that suits some people. And then there might be other groups that are, very therapy focused, trauma focused. People have very specific needs. Some people just are fascinated with their brains and how they work. Some people want to sit and talk to spiders and sit outside under a tree and just, marvel at the interconnectedness of life. Some people want to heal some really dark, deep stuff. So for every person, whatever your reason is for wanting to explore these medicines, there's going to be a different circle or a different community that you can join. And it shouldn't be one community, because that's not how things work. And I think with lots of things in our life, whether it's our food systems, whether it's, how we doing things on a smaller scale with, more people who are connected, who have a care about each other, is a better way to do things. And I think when it comes to psychedelics, especially now they're coming into being a legalized therapy, again, that might not be for everyone. One, it's going to become extremely expensive. You're going to be paying thousands and thousands of dollars to do something which could cost you, not much, or for free if you find these wonderful mushrooms growing in the woods somewhere, which they do all over Europe and North America at the right time of year. So, you can go out and find this product for free and sit and experience, and have these wonderful experiences in the right setting with the right people. What I personally don't want to see is people feel like they have to do it in these very formal environments, and to think, well, if I don't do it in this formal environment, then it's somehow not going to do it properly, or it's somehow not going to have the effect. I mean, have you had many people within the community that are looking to work with psychedelics in a really therapeutic way, or is it just more people who are exploring and interested in just having an experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. And in my brain, because I'm so used to Zoom now, when you were talking about communities with their kind of local shamans, I wanted to find the heart emoji and give that was a great point that I'll talk further on in a second. I think we've had a good mix. We have a lot of people in the community that are working on themselves, that, are what healthy normal is a term that has been thrown around a bit, that, are just looking to find purpose in life and find that next step in their journey, and, utilize the power of psychedelics. Everyone is uniform in agreement in the community that psychedelics are just a tool. They're not, some magic answer, which is, I think, easy to overlook, but because you're often around people that, if you're in this space, you understand that. But for the more general public, that's something that I don't think has been made very clear yet. So I think that's important to note. So we have a good mix of people that are like that. We have a good mix of people that are dealing with anxiety and depression and OCD and PTSD, that are looking for, what are these psychedelics and what are the differences between them, and what have people found that are like me that has worked for them. And not just the psychedelics, but, a journaling practice or breath work, or yoga or meditation or whatever it is. And that's really, I view us more as a community than as like a psychedelic community. Like I dove more into learning about community than I did about psychedelics when I wanted to make this community, because I see our value as, if you come in and tell us you're looking for a specific answer or resource or a connection, like that's our job, is to find that for you, and then find what's next for you to get you to the point that you're comfortable with whatever, you know, route you're on, and that continues in perpetuity. And I think that sometimes that is psychedelic related, and it's important to have knowledgeable people in the community that are on that side of things. But sometimes that's just, you know, hey, what have other people in the community done to deal with the loss of a pet? And the answer might not be psychedelic related at all. It might be go on a trip, or, you know, go spend time with family or whatever. It's a support community that happens to understand the importance of psychedelics at the same time, and how that can aid in life in general. And
Heart. It's you know, I'm smiling because it's so refreshing to hear you talking about this, because I truly believe that this is the future of how we can look after our health and wellness. It is a holistic approach, you know, like everything in nature, it is part of the whole. We've got very used to just isolating one thing. I want to do X, Y, Z. I want to take a pill for it. I want to get thin. I want to get big. I want to, you know, go up. I want to go down. That's not nature. Nature works in cycles. And it's like, you don't just, if you break your leg, you can't just take a pill and it won't be broken anymore. You know, it's like you have to let it heal. You have to do exercises. You have to like build back your strength. And it's the same with anything, you know, it's the same with grief or PTSD or trauma or, you know, anxiety. You're not just going to do one psychedelic experience or one day of meditation and be like, oh, my anxiety's gone. Like, that's not how it works. You have to get to the bottom of why these things happen. And for me, I really want to see this future where, you know, there are these wellness communities and actual centers where, you know, you have these emotional, spiritual gyms. You know, you go and you exercise and you work out your brain, and, you know, you care for yourself in ways that aren't just popping a pill. And if we do it like this, we won't need to pop the pills. It's like, how about we just stay healthy and happy throughout our lives? Like, we've created a system with our current pharmaceutical system. It treats sick people. Like, there's not things in place to kind of make sure that we never get sick, because that doesn't make any money, right? So, you know, sick people make a lot of money, but we need to be, you know, the generation of people that are trying to work out ways to make sure, you know, we don't get sick in the first place. Or if we see signs of something, we go, right, let's do these couple of things. And having communities where you can go and say, like, I'm, you know, what, this is my problem. This is what I'm going through. What would you suggest? Yeah, it could be a psychedelic experience, but it could be meditation. It could be, you know, breath work, which is crazy. Some of the effects you can get from holotropic breath work. You know, you almost go into this state, this trance-like psychedelic state. So there's so many modalities, I think, that people can start looking at. And yeah, I just love that the fact that you're talking about it as a whole. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And my personal mission is to get just one of these, but eventually more. Every county in the US, which usually have like in the low thousands of people, like, you know, 2 to 20,000 ish, to have each one of them have a retreat within the county that is completely free for members of the county, and has a, you know, certified shaman there, and also has a, you know, more traditional doctor on call in case, you know, any adverse reactions happen, that they're standing nearby. And I think that would just go such a long way towards like getting to know your neighbor that lived down the street that you have potentially never even met before. But, you know, like you talked about, anytime before 200 years ago, you knew everyone that was within a mile radius of you because you had to. Yeah. And, you know, that created that strong community. And we absolutely undervalue the importance of community, where if you come to Empathic Health in the Slack and ask a question, like you said, about, you know, I'm just wondering about this thing and I'm curious if anyone has an opinion, even just like seeing the fact that within an hour, 4 or 5 people are like chiming in, being like, have you thought of this? Like, I would recommend this. This worked for me. I don't know if it'll work for you. Like, just that people care and like want to help you and are like standing by to do so. And that also in return that you can do that for them, is like being able to have and do those things help in ways that, I mean, I guess we could measure if we really tried with science, but it's hard. They help in such like profound ways that we don't realize, that you have people caring about you and you are caring about other people. And like that alone is going to help so much in your journey and experience.
Definitely. It sounds a bit cheesy, but like love and belonging and compassion, it really does, it changes your physiology. I was reading a study that was done in Scandinavia, and it was around, positivity. And it's like they measured people who were around positive people. And even just being around a positive person, maybe that you don't know, but say someone in your office increases like people's personal positivity, increases people's they had like a positive mental health score. And, if you're around positive energy, if you feel cared for and connected, we're tribal animals. We're designed to live in a pack. Like, we're not solitary creatures, but we're creating this society where, you might work all day in your finance job or in an office, and then you come home and it's all about you. And if you don't have a partner, then you're on your own. And, and somehow that's okay. And you move out of home quite early. And, this whole culture, there's still cultures where you don't move out of home till you get married, and, it's about, and then you have your own family and that communities continue. And, we've lost a lot of that community. And this has, I'm sure, a connection to mental health and how people feel so much more lonely. But to me, it's the quality of the community, because out there in this Reddit, forums and Facebook, which increasingly I think Facebook is full of a lot of very, very weird people. You have these keyboard warriors, you have these egos, you have these people that just want to say their point. That's not helpful. That's not a community. And it's almost anti-community, because you're creating more alienation. People dip their toe in and go, oh, well, I asked this question and I felt embarrassed and somebody said something mean and now I just don't want to go anywhere near it. And that's wrong. That's not what it should be like. So I love the fact that you're using Slack as a medium to communicate. It already feels private. Like, it already feels like, something that's very specific, because the danger, even with, kind of letting people in with Facebook groups or, blogs or, something that's kind of open more to the public, is you do get people who come on to take the piss, and you'll get people that don't actually care. And you'll also then get people that project their real issues that are, onto the group. And I'm sure as the community grows, there will be people who may show certain signs, but I'm sure you guys have thought about how that will be managed. And, you have private conversations with you, be like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? When people react in certain ways for a reason, so bullies are bullies because they're, traumatized and they haven't got good things going on in their lives. And I think, if you have a community that's small enough that you can care, if you see some kind of behavioral stuff going on that's not okay, you can go, hey, like, are you all right? Like, what's going on? And I think that creating this small community is so lovely and so important. And I think, psychedelics are a really great way to bring people together through shared experience, which is why tribes had shamans, which is why they had sacred plants and rituals. I've always said we're creatures of ceremony. We dancing around the campfire since the beginning of time. And these ceremonies have now been hijacked by alcohol and parties and sports and, things that can be great and fun and really healing for some people, but can also be very destructive and very toxic and create, pack mentality in not a positive way, in a destructive way. And so I think the more people that are coming together and creating these smaller communities and really helping to explore things like psychedelics and alternative therapies as well, I think is beautiful.
Just on that note, so we have some systems set up where if someone hasn't engaged in the community in a while, then it sends us a message to reach out to them. And fortunately, we're small enough that we're just kind of on top of it and we know. But, we can reach out and be like, hey, just like want to check in. I'm sure, work's busy, life gets busy, but if there's anything we can do to help, just give us a shout. And we don't even have an Instagram because our focus is on the members of the community. Like, we're making a group and a home and value for them. So to spend our time worrying about people outside of it, like, we're not that hard to get into. Like, like you can get in and then like we will give you all of the attention we can.
Yeah.
But that's definitely where our focus is. And, making sure that every one of our members is getting positive value out of being a member of the community.
So did you set this up on your own? Do you have like partners or people that are running it with you? How's it work as a operation?
Yeah, so we have 5 people on the team that are working and working full-time jobs as well. So very much a bootstrapped operation. But the hope is, and we're starting to see it already, that the community runs itself in a way that we get community members reaching out to, say, hey, I've worked in marketing for 5 years, and I see that I feel like we can improve this part of our marketing as a community. And I'll be like, great, like, do you want to take a stab at that? And like, and lend your expertise. And like, yeah, absolutely. Like, whatever to help out the community. We've seen that in a few different ways. And I really hope that continues to grow. We even have a grant project in the winter that we're starting where we put some money in the budget for any community-oriented project, and not empathic specific. It could be a local community garden in your hometown. But anything that will, have a positive impact on the people around you. And you'll be able to post your project. You'll be able to say like, the help I need is a UX designer, a engineer, and a marketing person. And other members of the community can be like, oh, I can chip in a little bit here and do a little bit there. And then at the end, we'll have a little party and we'll bring everyone together. Everyone can pitch their projects, and then we'll give out grants to the projects deemed most impactful on whatever community they are being worked for. And we can actually get some of these projects started. And we hope to get a sponsor for that to double the prize money and get more grant money out. And the community itself, or I should say the company that is the community, is essentially not operating for profit. So any money we get that is above covering our expenses will be put towards being reinvested in the community or donated to one of our partner organizations. So 25% of anything we get above expenses will be given to, we're building out the exact plan now, but a variety of underrepresented minority organizations, indigenous communities, education, and a variety of other things. So it'll be on the website when we finish it, so stay tuned. And we're nowhere near making a profit yet because we're completely free. But if and when that day ever does come, we're planning now to make sure that it's just getting put towards reaching more people with the community and being able to service more people, and then being able to reach areas that we're not.
That's amazing. I mean, it's so much more, and some of this I knew, but some of it I didn't. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And it's so much more than just, a resource for people who want to learn more about psychedelics. It seems like an amazing community project which at its core, I think anyone who has worked with plant medicines, one thing that kind of is a thread that I think you'll probably agree with is this real amazing feeling of interconnectedness with other people, with plants, with animals, and this empathy towards everyone. And why wouldn't we all want to help each other? Why wouldn't we all want to care? Why wouldn't we want to care for our planets and the spiders and then the animals and everything that's around us? And that feeling through different plant medicines that I've worked with has always been a theme that's run through it. And I think it's so beautiful that this is now, it seems like this is at the cornerstone of everything that empathic health is about, which is beautiful. And it goes as well. We live in a very digital world. The last year has forced everything to be digital, but to see that, this is the mycelium that's spreading underneath, and the mushrooms that are going to sprout from it are these amazing real-time community projects and these real-time things that are going to give back. And to me, this sounds like this could be such a huge thing. It has so much scope to grow, and I'm seeing this around the world where people are caring more about the community because the governments are doing their own thing. They've got bigger fish to fry. There's a lot of people that just go under the radar, that don't get represented, that don't get cared about. And what I want to see is let's rewind all the way back to how it used to be, where you look after the people in your communities, you create community growing gardens, you make sure that people have got resources like food and education, and we're changing the boundaries as humans, as part of our communities, because we know that the government is very slow to move. If at all it does these positive things, it takes a very long time to do. So this is very exciting that this could be the start of something really big. I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing.
I hope it is. And one of those community projects is a mycelial map that we're working on. That will be a new take on like the profile. You know, if you think of like a Facebook profile, where you'll be able to see who's connected to who, and that's information we have because it is referral only. And when you connect with someone new, and we're going to try and facilitate more one-on-one connections, we can connect your link and you can kind of see the whole grand picture of who's connected to what organizations. And that helps with things too. Like if you want to reach out to Psychedelic Passage, for example, weeds, they facilitate journeys in places where mushrooms are decriminalized. If you want to see like who has, connected with them, like I want to ask them questions because I'm considering using them. You can, type in the map and search by keyword and see like, oh, their link is connected to Psychedelic Passage. I can reach out to them. Like, oh, I see that we both play tennis in common. Like we can talk about that, and really bring that like intimate, like actually get to know people aspect that's often lost in online social media. Try to bring that back a bit. And then, of course, get things in person, which we all want. We're hoping to get city leads in each city and have specific channels for geographic areas so that we can start to do more in-person events, even if it's just locals within your community. I think that would go a long way towards getting everyone to really, finish off that community feel that we're hoping to make.
That sounds amazing. And I think, I'm loving everything that you're saying. And I think it's so important that there are people that are wanting to do things and put good back into the communities and not be driven by profit. I mean, your background is so different. You were set for a career, working in finance and going down that route, which is, very money driven, very materialistic. Would you say it was working with plant medicine that made that flip in your brain that you went, actually, I just want to do something that's putting back?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was after that first experience that I realized like, what's the best case scenario for me in finance is like, I make a lot of money and then, I spend that to give my immediate family a better experience than if I didn't have a lot of money. And that end goal, I think, never materializes. There's always like, well, I could just make a little more because then you have a family and kids and pets and like you got to buy a house. And it's always like, well, I need a little more to feel that I can support my family and then I can worry about other people. And you never get to that point where you can start to think about other people just because that's just the nature of reality, where, we only have as long as we have in this lifetime to try to help others and do what we can. So why not start as soon as you can, which is kind of what the plant medicine showed me. And finance just didn't seem like the way we were going to get there. But it is ironic that I am using the money that I made in finance to finance this community to the point that once that hits zero, we're either going to be able to find a way to sustain it ourselves with recurring revenue or fundraising or donations or investors, or then I will try to get a normal job, quote unquote, to keep myself secure while I continue to find ways to do something of this nature in the same vein.
I think that's amazing. And, you're setting yourself up for this path, and the universe will bring stuff to you. And I think you'll manifest that along the way. And the funny thing is, it's like, yes, you kind of need that little bit of money to start off with, but people are becoming more aware that we need to give back and that we need to work community projects and that people need to sacrifice but not everyone wants to do it. So there are a lot of people who really want to dig deep and be philanthropists and who don't actually want to give up their job in the city, but will probably give you some nice funding and donation money. So hopefully you can knock on some doors of some old contacts and let them know what you're doing to kind of fund it.
That is our hope, is that we can get value aligned investors that, are not just like, here's my money, go make more of it, They're saying like, here's my money. I fully expect to not, get that 10x return unicorn that, is going to IPO. Like, we're never going to go public. That just would break every value of our community. Yeah. But, you can get like a normal return on your money and be a part of the community and, be a member that is at events and is, using your fancy, famous investor contacts to, bring in cool speakers and, facilitators and things like that, and be able to provide so much more value just as a person in the community. And really just, the money is sustaining it and helping us grow to reach more people. And those people are out there. Like there are a few that we know exist, and we're going to do everything we can to get in front of their eyes. But there's certainly those people that exist that, understand the true value of psychedelics, not as like an FDA, and there is value as an FDA approved drug, but they understand that their money, they believe, should be going towards the community grassroots, outreach effort, rather than let me invest in this biotech company that's going to sell 2 pills of mushrooms in a couple of years. So they exist, and we hope to find them. And if you're watching this video, reach out. Empathic Health.
Definitely. I'll put your email in the show notes. So contact Doug if you've got lots of money and want to change the world. I mean, I think it's amazing, and it sounds like it's going to be so much more than just this online community. It's a physical community. You've got some amazing things planned, but I guess people in the UK and in Europe can still become part of that community, right? On a virtual standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only downfall we've seen so far is, I personally love sending swag to people. So even the day that you join and introduce yourself to the community, I'm sending something your way. We're not able to do that to outside of North America right now, but even still, the parts that we can do digitally, I send digitally. And in terms of being part of the community, you're a part of it in every way. We have members in Norway, in France, in the Netherlands, Canada. So like, we are absolutely internationally friendly. We want to help promote projects in your home arenas. Like, anything we can do to help, doesn't matter where you are. And some of those are more exciting because there are places that are more restrictive, and we can find some creative ways to get knowledge and information and resources to people that have even less of a way to access them than you might find in the US or the UK or Canada.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And, again, there's so much scope to grow. And I'm sure in the future you'll have European chapters and you'll have, South American chapters. And it really seems like there's no boundaries to what you can do. So I'm really happy and excited that this is something that you've decided to embark on. And I love that it's the plants and the mushrooms that have helped you get to this realization. And I just think it's wonderful. And, and as psilocybin, more research has been done. We are looking at it as a really valuable tool for mental health problems. The drugs are not working anymore. The side effects of some of these drugs are worse than the actual symptoms. Even drugs that are supposed to be designed to help your mental health, can cause even more mental health problems down the line. And I think, we're seeing the studies in the US. We've had lots of studies in the UK and in London around psilocybin as a really valuable tool for treating depression and PTSD. And I think as this happens, people are going to get more curious, but you don't always want to go down that medical route. It might be financial. It might be that it just feels too alien, and you might be someone that's just more akin to a natural way of doing stuff. And I think having resources, having sacred, shared, safe spaces where people can get this information from is just amazing. So I think all the details are going to be in the show notes of where people can find Empathic Health. I love that you're not on socials. I think that's great. I think as a tool for spreading information, it can be great, but I think Instagram is also a pretty toxic place a lot of the time. And if you're insecure or feeling a bit fragile and looking for information, those rabbit holes that you can get in trying to find that on social media are pretty damaging. So I love that you've made that decision to not be on there as well.
Yeah, the one that we do use is LinkedIn, which I personally love. And I have them separate from the other socials. And a lot of our partners and some good organizations are on there. and people share some great research and ways to donate. So I love being on there because we can help support other groups in what they're doing. But I'm totally with you on the other ones. It's just feels antithetical to what we're trying to do.
Definitely. Doug, it's been so amazing talking to you, and I'm so glad I've learned more about your plans for Empathic Health. It just sounds like such an amazing journey that you're about to embark on, and I have no doubt that there will be people wanting to help and contribute. And I think what you're doing is so important for now, so important at the time that we're in, where we have huge mental health problems. We have people feeling really lonely and isolated. We have, knowledge and information that's there and able for people to share. And we have people that are wanting to go back to nature to solve problems, which for me is just makes me so happy, because Mother Nature got it spot on by her design pretty much first time round. We got quite clever and thought we could outsmart her, but let's be honest, she's got everything there that we need. And then we fill in the gaps, and we forget that we're a healing tool. Our bodies and our minds can heal ourselves and can help heal other people. And it's really important that communities start to bring that together. So thank you for starting it. And I can't wait to follow your journey and see what happens along the way.
Nature wins every second of the day.
Every time.
Thank you. Thank you, Zoe. And we're going to have to connect offline to talk about Function being the official provider of beverages for our annual member retreat in Joshua Tree at the end of September.
Yeah, I am all over that. Let's definitely talk about that.
All right.
Amazing talking to you. The website is in the show notes. People check it out. Doug, what's the best email to catch you on?
Yeah, you can reach me at dougf@empathic.health.
Amazing. I'll put that in the notes. And if anyone's got any questions, reach out and start that conversation.
Thank you, Zoe. Pleasure to be here.
Amazing. Bye.
Bye. Take care.